So how many routers have you got now?
I did have 13, so I thought I'd better buy another one because it's unlucky, right? I've got the Parks and the
Oh yeah.
again from minor dealings with well, this little Parkside, 35 quid flange router. I think it's the cheapest one you can get.
Yeah.
And again, you know, a few people have bought one, mentioned it to me. I thought I'd pick one up because it's interesting.
This looks very familiar. I wonder if it's a rebadged something or other.
It could be, I don't know. Has a hint of a green Bosch to my mind, but I wouldn't possibly like to say.
Smooth enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so light.
I know, there's nothing to it.
It almost floats.
It's 1200 watts, you know, it's like a reasonably powerful little thing.
They make a range of products that kind of fit into multiple price brackets, don't they?
They do.
Similarly to, I mean, even Parkside, I didn't realise, my video this week is actually, strangely enough, about power tool brands, and I've kind of put them into categories.
Oh, interesting. That's
It's a little bit controversial, and I'm expecting some hate.
That's going to, you know, sponsors, no, no, definitely not.
I also had to, obviously, because I work with Milwaukee, I had to kind of run it by them, and they didn't come back with any feedback, so I'm assuming I'm good to go ahead. I think my camera might have just run out, possibly. Yeah, doing a video about power tool brands, and throughout my research for that, I found that Parkside have actually got I think it's called Parkside Pro or something.
Something like the brushless range, yeah.
Which is, you know, a higher quality version.
Yes.
So I never even knew that, and it's only when you start trying to categorise tool brands that you realise how much
crossover there is.
And then again with Makita, which, you know, you kind of think, well, Makita is a trade grade tool.
Yeah.
But then they make brushed drills that are like 40 quid, 50 quid.
Like a DIY range.
Yeah,
Well, it used to be that the Makita DIY range was a slightly different colour of teal.
Yeah.
And the darker teal was the
they
pro
do
range.
white ones now as
they
well.
They do, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a minefield doing research for that video, and like I say, it's probably not going to go down great, but...
Well, you know,
we'll see.
We do the videos we want, not we don't serve other masters.
Yeah.
Is the theory, anyway. Yeah. Oh dear, so yes, routers we've known, but the collection is growing. We're not done yet.
So it's 14 routers.
I think 14.
Track saws, 1, 2,
Track
3, 4,
saws.
5.
I've cut back. I think we're down to 10 or 11. Well, as I say, we've got my eye on a Mafel, just because, and a Bosch, obviously.
Yeah.
Because you can't have too many. You might as well go, well, yeah, then what do? You know, Metaburn to Walt, and then I think that's about done. I've got all a version of all the lower end ones anyway.
So, if I were to ask you to pick one out of the Parkside, the Work Zone, the McAllister, and the Titan, which would it be?
Ooh.
They're all roughly in the same price bracket, I assume?
More or less. Not the Work Zone. The Aldi Work Zone is a variation on the Shepak, and they've made some very strange decisions on the base plate design. Doesn't sit happily with other rails, so it will compromise you in terms of the rails going forwards. And rails, you know, another length of rail is one of the next purchases that most people make. Yeah. The Parkside is also a little bit compromised, and they've got a slightly wider base, so you can't use it on the Makita pattern rail, because Makitas have that little anti-tipping lip.
Yes.
And that gets in the way of the base on the Parkside. You can either slightly extreme grind the base of your Parkside down, which some people have told me they've done, or you can just strip the lip off the Makita rail.
Or use the Evolution rails.
Or use the Evolution
rails. They
rails.
don't have that anti-kickback, anti-tilt thing, do they?
They don't.
Which annoys me. I wish they did.
Yeah. And the other thing with the Evolution rails is that, and again, I've never found it to be an issue, but most rails little anti-glide glide strips
Oh yes.
on either side of the central rib, so it balances.
Yeah.
The evolution rails, for whatever reason, have them both
yeah, I've
on
never
this
noticed
side.
that. Yeah.
And I hadn't noticed it before either until somebody said they were getting rocking.
Oh.
Because if you're an inexperienced tracksaw user, plowsaw
Yeah.
user, it's like being a learner driver. You've got so many things going on,
Yeah.
and they found they were tipping it, concentrating so hard and keeping it all level and square and true. They were actually tipping it over, so they were getting
Really?
a janky cut on one side.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's another thing is why is no other manufacturer other than, kind of Makita made? Because the 3 meter rail is like 170, 180 quid, I think. I'm surprised Evolution haven't jumped on that
yes,
and made like one
But
for
just one
90
long
or
rail.
100 quid.
I assume it's because it's expensive to do. Yeah, again, the extrusion must be made in
Yeah.
unlimited lengths almost, and then chopped up. Surely it's got to be done that way.
I wonder if a lot of the price, maybe postage comes into it as well. Because,
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
I know I had a 3 meter Makita rail back when they were only 140 quid or something, because it was half the price of a festival one.
Yeah.
And it came in so much wood. It's like an entire tree wrapped around it. This big, solid plywood package with strapping and banding on it. And I then cut it down because, of course, that's what you do. The thing that annoys me about the Evo rail, which is a great shame, is that you've got both the little T slots are downward facing, so there's no upward facing one on the left hand side for stops and things. Because it is very convenient to put a stop in there if you're using a router or something you want to get back to
Yeah.
exactly the same place, or anti-kickback. But yeah, no shortage of things to spend your hard-earned money on, is there?
So sorry, I probably interrupted you. So your favourite out of the works?
Oh, right, okay.
Side.
It's okay. The McAllister and the Titan are almost identical.
Right.
They are literally separated by
I can see
3 or
actually,
4
yeah.
years, and the Titan I'd say is probably better made. I'd go for the, if you can get them. Okay, it's a loaded question, that kid.
Yeah.
Lots of issues generally. The Parkside is only available a couple of times a year. It needs work to the guide rails to make it work with Makita. Why is that important? Because the Makita pattern is the most commonly copied.
Yeah.
You get an XL guide rail, 1.5 metre guide rail for about 35 quid, which is the copy of the Makita. The closest copy I've ever seen. But the Parkside won't run on it unless you doctor it. So my money still goes for the Titan or the McAllister.
Yeah.
And as always with these things, we are the quality control. So be prepared to return it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no issues at all with the McAllister. That's the most recent one that I've bought, and I'm using that in the basic builds series for exactly that reason, because it's still available. And
Yeah.
although somebody was saying there's no Screwfix anymore, the McAllister brand is now a B&Q brand,
Right.
which is
What about the Triton Makita and Festool? I've got an inkling I know what you'll say.
The Triton's a big one, so it's more like the Erbauer. So it's got a 185 blade in it.
Right.
But I do have the regular sized version of the Triton, and again that's almost identical to the Titan and the McAllister,
Right.
but it's got soft start and a slightly bigger motor.
Okay.
Slightly shorter warranty, 2 years I think, but availability of spare parts for it if that's important to you.
Yeah.
So a better bet generally, but don't think you're getting anything significantly fancier because it is, visually at least, almost identical to the Titan and the McAllister.
Yeah.
Makita's nice. I haven't actually used that one much. I bought that second hand. I do find them a little bit crude.
Yeah.
I do find them a little bit chunky.
In terms of accuracy or
No, just
feel
general
kind of
weight
thing?
and feel.
Yeah.
No issues with the accuracy, although...
I'd love to have a feel of it if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
sure.
Because obviously I've
You've got the
back-
cordless one, haven't you?
Yeah, which is even, I should imagine, is even heavier because it is a heavy old beast.
It is a bit of a lump.
Oh yeah, this is. Oh, actually, I don't know. Wait. Is this heavier? I think it might be a little bit heavier actually. even with two 5-amp batteries, which surprised me because I expected mine would be heavier still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great, does it?
No,
To
it's
be honest.
a little bit lumping.
Yeah.
And to be honest, the festival don't feel great either. One of the criticisms of the festival is that they've always been felt a little bit plasticky.
Well, when we were doing our kitchen worktops, the fitter I used had this. I don't know whether it was this exact one, some sort of TS55
Similar, yeah.
anyway. But he was finding it. We were finding in 24mm birch ply it was getting bogged down in the cut quite a lot. So we switched to using the Makita. But I wonder now if it was just with the blade that he had.
Could be.
fitted.
A lot of people. I mean, I'm as guilty of it as anybody. The standard stock 48 tooth blade is fantastic, but it will bog down. It's got too many teeth if you're trying to rip something thick.
And it's a wider kerf as well.
2.2 mil, yeah.
Yeah, because that one's a 1.6, or the one that I've got is a 1.6.
Yeah, this is still a 2.2. I think this is the old school corded.
So this is
tools.
cordless. Oh no,
No, that's good.
I was going to say, yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
Yes, it's cordless now.
They do a
plug
cordless one.
They do a
don't they?
cordless, yeah. And I've never got into cordless tools. It's funny because I'm mostly just working here, so
Yeah.
everything's connected to the extractor. And
If you're on one system with the power cable that serves all
Yeah.
of your tools, you don't
That's-
really need it to be
I
cordless, do you?
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the benefits.
It's nice. Cheers.
I know it's. I have too many of everything, basically. So yeah, I think of the more, yes, I mean, I tend to reach for the festival more often,
Yeah.
not just because I've got 3 of them, but because I'm used to them, I'm comfortable
Yeah.
with them. Never really had an issue with them, other than, as you say, I would, back in the day when I was trimming doors or something, you might struggle a little bit,
Yeah.
so you do it in 2 passes. And the motor wouldn't hurt for the motor to be a bit beefier.
Yeah.
That's one of the pros, one of the pluses of the Mafal, of course. And the Bosch.
Are your two Festals the same?
Virtually, yeah.
Is one newer than the other, maybe?
Yeah, they're all. That's the newest. Those two are pretty much identical. A couple of years apart. I was using them a lot and had the MFT set up here, and it occurred to me that I was so reliant on that one tool because
Yeah.
it didn't have any other way of cutting stuff up. I probably ought to get a spare one. So I bought an X demonstrator from Festool, from TTS,
Yeah.
in wherever they are. And it had a 3-month warranty on it. And after about the 13th week, it died. I had to have a new motor in it, which is infuriating. And then my original one just died, and I was in the middle of a ton of work. So I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. I just didn't want to send it back. Because you send it back, it's going to cost you 50 quid just
Yeah.
to look at it. So I happened to find a bargain on a new one, so I bought the new one. And then about a year later, because I don't know if you remember, I used to have a bench of shame here, which had sort of all kinds of rubbish on it. And I was clearing that and sort of found the old Festool, and then I thought, God, I really ought to do something about that. And then while I was just fiddling with it, I thought, I should probably check the brushes.
Oh, I remember,
That's all
yeah.
it was. That's all it was, brushes. So now I've got 3 functioning Festools, which I don't only really use one of them. Because you can only use one saw at a time.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't have them all, right?
What calipers are you using?
If they were the cheapest ones I could
Fancy one,
find
just
on
yeah,
Amazon, they're like 7 quid or something.
Yeah.
All the digital ones seem to work perfectly well for me.
I forget what that brand is. It Matoya or something.
Yeah,
That everyone raves about.
Yeah, but they're like incredibly expensive.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I do need to populate that shelf with other bits.
Just gonna get some quick B-roll
Yeah, sure.
before my battery runs out.
I have got supply
spare.
with some.
That's a serious bit of kit, that tripod.
They were great. These were the lightweight ones that I had when I was working as a photographer.
Yeah.
And